Hello, welcome to Land Title Talk, where we encourage you to text in your real estate related questions or legal questions at 904-501-4481, 904-501-4481, or you can email us your questions or comments at Stephen, Stephen, at golandtitle.com. As always, I have my special guest with me, Rusty Collins, from the law office of J. Russell Collins, affectionately known as Rusty Law. And then we have Julie with us from Land Title of America, always keeping us in line and answering our questions when we need that. But Rusty, what's going on in your world?
You dressed down today, didn't you?
I did.
I just noticed that.
So
I got a suit jacket on and a tie. You don't even have a tie.
It's no tie Thursday.
I think it's the second time I've done that, actually. Yeah.
No, you came in a T-shirt one week.
I did. It happens.
Okay.
Anything going on?
Not really.
Okay. Because I want to talk about title insurance today. You know, this show is sponsored by Land Title of America. We sell title insurance. And the weird thing is we hardly talk about title insurance.
Well, the last few weeks, last few times we've been here, we talked about law stuff.
Yeah, we've been talking about law stuff.
It kind of relates to title insurance.
It does. Main reason is that I like to say to people who own real estate, it is expensive to be right. It's expensive to be innocent. And what do you think I mean by that, Mr. Attorney Man?
Well, it costs money to fight, okay? You know, the good example of that is when there's fraud in a real estate transaction and you're the buyer or you're the person who owns the property and you got to pay money to go fix the title because even though a fraudulent deed conveys nothing, you still it's still a cloud. Okay?
Well, yeah. And if you don't fix that if the fraudster sells the property to somebody and they take possession and they pay taxes for 7 years, what do you have?
Well, you have somebody who had the property that wasn't paying attention.
I understand, but what do you have? You
may have a brand new title.
Yeah, you have an owner. So, but I like to use a terminology, it's expensive to be innocent or expensive to be right, is that if somebody's challenging your ownership in any way, shape, or form, you have to defend that. What happens, Rusty, if you don't defend it?
Well, you get defaulted and you lose typically.
I think people think that judges are there to represent their rights in the law. Can you give us a clearer picture of what a courtroom would look like or what happens? I mean, if a person comes pro se, meaning they're representing themselves, they don't have the money to hire an attorney, what protection do they really have in the law? If they don't really know what they're talking about, can the judge sit there and say to the defendant, hey, you need to do this, or hey, you need to do that? Will they do that?
In fact, it's interesting. Here, every time Judge Janesk has a pro se litigant, and typically, it's a civil action or a foreclosure action, he swears them in like he doesn't, like an attorney would be sworn in as the officer of the court, at least temporarily, or at least for truth and stuff, because, when I became a lawyer, I took an oath. It wasn't in front of a judge, but it was in front of somebody who represented the state. It was a notary. But he does that every time. And I've never seen another judge do that. But he says, I might be able to help explain what some of the jargon means, but I can't tell you what to do and I can't give you legal advice. And there are times when, I've seen Judge John Alexander, who was a family law judge here. He did a lot of the domestic violence cases, and he really did not enjoy having pro se people in a domestic violence case because they screw up. The judge would be there, and all he does is call balls and strikes when it comes to procedure stuff.
I don't think people understand that, Rusty.
But then he's the fact finder too. Okay, but if, say, somebody is getting beaten up by their spouse, you have a lady who's being beat mercilessly by her spouse, or he's doing things. If she screws that up, and based upon the evidence the judge has, he does not have the evidence to grant an injunction, ongoing after a hearing, that girl gets hurt, maimed, dead, whatever, and what's going to happen is the press is going to say that judge did not protect her.
Right.
Now, I also have other times where you've got to make the right arguments. You got to know what evidence is relevant.
Well, everybody's doing Chat GTP or Gronk
oh my goodness, yeah.
Trying to represent themselves.
That's true, and I'm in a case right now where that's happened, and it makes for really long pleadings, and it also you can tell. You can take the text, put it into another utility, and say, "Tell me if this is likely AI generated," and it's like 95%.
You use AI to determine if it's AI.
Right, of course. But also sometimes there's some defects in the AI stuff that shows up that you didn't see on your screen. You know, some of her letters were weird. Okay,
but I think,
but also it hallucinates.
But the point I want to drive home is the judge is not there to represent you.
No, the judge is there to make findings of fact based upon the evidence presented. And
even if it's evidence,
interpret.
He's like, I want you to present this evidence because he knows if you present this evidence, it's going to protect them. But if they don't present that evidence, he can't do it for them.
Correct. In other words, now if you got something that's you can see, like, and I was in a trial once.
That's different.
And I had a stack of big 11 by 17 photos that I had taken from an aerial from a drone, and had them folded up, and they were sitting right by me, and I'm between, and right between me and the judge is those pictures. And he's like, I was waiting for somebody to put those in, because they're like, I don't know what those are.
Right.
But the judge can't really help you. And he's not supposed to. He's supposed to treat you much like he would treat a properly trained attorney. Now, they do give some leeway on some stuff, and especially procedural stuff, a little bit here and there. But the problem with self-represented litigants, sometimes they don't know what's relevant.
Well, there's also technicalities that have to be taken care of in a case.
Well, right. And
if you fail to follow those technicalities, you could very well lose.
Well, you won't be able to get your evidence
even though you're right.
Well,
then you're
police
right?
report.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Police reports are not admissible as evidence.
I didn't know that.
Well, what is a police report?
Man, it's
an out of court statement.
Okay.
If it's used to prove the truth of the statement, what's on that paper, then it's a hearsay. See? You got to know the difference between what out of court statements are hearsay. If Julie comes running into the room and says, Stephen just told me that Martians have landed on the roof, it would be hearsay to prove that Martians have landed on the roof. It would not be hearsay to prove that you're crazy. That's the easiest way for me. That's the easiest way for me to make the distinction. That was told to me by an evidence teacher in class, and it just stuck because that's the way to do it. So, the statement that something happened on a piece of paper is not necessarily going to work because it's an out of court statement. But if you make a record every time you do something, like when you take a payment,
that's admissible.
It can be, but you have to know how to make it admissible.
Right. This is why you have attorneys do that.
Right. And you can learn these things, but in the heat of the moment, when it's personal to you, it's way different. Okay. Even reasonably smart attorneys don't represent themselves because it's personal. And so you need somebody it's not personal. And then again, when you talk about title insurance, stuff's going to happen in real estate.
Well, I just want people to remember and to realize that the reason I say it's expensive to be right, because if you're trying to go in there and defend yourself, you could really screw up. And it can cost
a lot.
You brought in a good example of criminal cases even and so forth. But if I stick to real estate, it can be a very expensive mistake to make to defend yourself, because there's no way the judge could rule against me. It's very clear I'm right. But you still have to prove that when somebody sues you. If you don't answer a complaint that you get served from a person, even though their claims could be totally bogus, what happens?
Well, you get defaulted.
And then what?
Well, it depends. Okay.
Let's go to the case of I got served. I look at the case and I'm like, this is bogus. There's no way. These people are full of crap. I know who they are. They're my neighbors in the back. This is a bogus claim. They're fighting that they have an easement, and I know that they had a road accessing the property, and I'm somewhat title savvy, and I know their easement comes through there. I'm not even going to give it 2 seconds. I'm not going to respond to it. I'm just screw them.
Okay, well,
What happens?
well, you will have admitted the well-pled allegations of the complaint. Now, what does that mean, right?
Well, yeah. So if I don't answer the complaint, then I've accepted what the complaint says.
No,
the well pled.
Right. So, but what you have to understand is if somebody states the cause of action and they say certain facts and they don't attach a document that contradicts the fact, because that'll mess you up, okay, then if you don't answer and you're defaulted, then you've admitted those facts.
Right.
For purposes of the case.
And so you could lose very easily just by taking a stand. Well,
If they say, I gave you this on this day.
You're like, no, you didn't. Well, you got to answer.
Well, if I don't put something in the complaint that shows a receipt of a different day, okay, or something stupid, then for purposes of the case, those facts are admitted as being true. So the plaintiff doesn't have to prove that fact. So you don't necessarily lose. I mean, I had a case on a reverse mortgage where I got defaulted. I showed up at trial, and because of certain technical issues, well, I still won. Okay. The judge was not happy.
I understand, but you don't want to take that risk.
But I'm just saying you're taking a risk that you don't want to take.
If you get served, you're going to want an attorney. The great thing about an owner's title insurance policy, because that's what I'm specifically talking about, is an owner's title insurance policy is a contractual obligation, basically for legal representation. And if legal representation fails, then we have to pay the amount of the policy. Right. Yeah, I think it's a very simple concept, actually. Am I missing anything here?
That's the really big picture. I mean, when you get down into the weeds of the policy's terms and conditions, you have insuring clauses and you have exception clauses or exclusion clauses.
Right. Things we're not.
And then you have the exceptions on the policy. So.
But we could get into why you need an attorney and a representation or an attorney to represent you when you're buying a property pertaining to a title insurance, because you're right. Title insurance company, we're still an insurance company. Our job is to take your premium and never pay out a claim. I mean, that's just like any insurance company.
The purpose of every
So the exceptions,
company.
The title exceptions do matter, okay? And yes, and we can get into that, but I don't even want to talk about that.
Well, there's exclusion. I mean, every time you have an insurance policy, whether it's health, life, or whatever,
there's always exclusions.
You have insurance,
but you need to know what those exclusions are.
Well, you have exclusions and stuff we don't cover no matter what.
Right.
Then you have exceptions because there's covenants and restrictions or an easement or something.
But in the case of an owner's title insurance, it's important to have that. And I think people need to understand how Florida works. We are what we call a title state, lien theory state.
We are a lien theory state.
Lien theory state. Okay. And we have a thing called the Markable Records Title Act.
What does the lien theory state mean?
Well, lien theory state means that, you explain it for me better than I could ever, because I'll mess up.
Okay, so, there's two theories. We're talking about mortgage theories. One's a title state, where when you get a loan, you transfer ownership of the property to somebody else who holds title
until you pay
it off. And then you have a lien theory state, which is like Florida, where it's a mortgage, which is a lien on the property, but you don't give your title to anybody.
Right.
And in some of the title theory states, if you go in default, they can do a notice and then they can go sell the property on the courthouse steps with very little else.
Overview, yeah.
And with lien theory states, or at least Florida, there's full
judicial action.
There's a judicial action. You can't just kick somebody out. You can't just sell the property.
But somebody's rights to own property I think, in Florida, heavily protected.
Right.
Your rights to own property, and you can get as emotional as you want about it. People have spilt their blood on foreign soil for our rights, our freedoms.
Correct.
And one of those freedoms is to own real estate.
Right.
You see the Far and Away. You ever watch Far and Away, the movie with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman?
I think I've slept through it once or twice.
You shouldn't slip it. They have the great Oklahoma race. I think it's.
Is that where you're the homesteading?
Yeah, the homestead, where they have a certain time and you have a flag and you're going to race to the, I think they're actually quarter sections. I think is what they cut it up in. It could have been quarter sections. I don't know. But the point is, it's 160 acres. How many? What is that?
That is 160 acres is a quarter section.
Okay, quarter section. All right. So it's a quarter section. You're racing to that. And you get to put your flag in the ground, and that's yours.
Kind of like Black Friday, going into Walmart.
Nothing like that. But
you got to run farther. That's all.
So they have, these people all getting ready to start the race, and when that gun goes off, you get to run. If you start early, they can shoot you dead.
Things were a little different back in those days.
Yeah, it was. But I mean, the rights to own property in Florida are just heavily protected under law, right?
They are.
Right. And the point,
you can lose them.
Yeah, how do you lose them? Well, you can lose them by not paying a mortgage. You can lose them by not having only. But the point is that if I own real estate in Florida, if I own it, okay, and somebody forges my name and sells the property, I don't lose my ownership.
No.
As long as I take action within 7 years, right?
Well, I haven't researched whether or not there's I don't know that.
Listen, if you don't pay your taxes, you're getting off on a side tangent here, and the side tangent is this: if I am not paying attention, I have a lot, and somebody forges my name and sells it, and the people that buy it pay taxes for 7 years, take possession, I lose the property. Okay, period. But let's not get off on that. Let's focus on the fact you own property; it's heavily protected. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So you think about that; those rights are heavily protected. So what gives the rights of another person to take your rights away without your consent, or the consent of your heirs, or those who are entitled to your property? And so this is why I think title insurance is so important, because when you buy a home, you want to be protected from someone else's rights, whether they be real or perceived, coming back and challenging your rights.
Yeah, that's correct. And one of the things that I think is important is there are things, assuming you did your own title search and you did it perfectly and you found everything that was in public record to find, there are still ways to lose your property that you did not see.
Let's talk about one of those. I shared it with you today.
Oh, I know.
And I thought I told you this story before.
I think you had.
And I think I've actually talked about this story on this show. I've talked about it so much because it's one of the most interesting stories I've ever ran across, because it happened to us at Land Title. Okay. It becomes very interesting when you just don't hear about it. You live through it, right?
Well, it's more than just a concept.
So I want to share a story. We had a client that, and again, it's important that we change some of the nuances because we do want to protect the privacy of individuals. So this is a generality. Is that English?
Sure.
So it's not 100% accurate, but the foundation is. So what we have is we have a father who owns a home. He's owned it for over 30 years, and he's lived there his whole life. He's not married. He's about 68, 69 years old, and he has one daughter. And unfortunately, he passes away. Well, the daughter does what any daughter would do, and that's go to a judge, get an attorney, do what they call an order determining homestead. And in that, what does the order determining homestead say?
Well, in Florida, your homestead, unless you do a will to somebody else or somebody who's not an heir of yours.
And they can't, and as long as you don't have a minor or a spouse.
If you don't have a spouse, you don't have a minor child, okay, then when you die, title passes.
Right.
And you can have a will, and if the will's admitted and you did not will it to somebody who's not an heir, and you don't have anything that prevents something like this from happening, then it will go as it says in that will, or it'll go by intestate succession, and that happens immediately upon death. And what we do with the probate case is we get an order from the judge that looks back in time and says, at the moment of that person's death, these people became the owners by virtue of it. The property descended. It wasn't conveyed. It descended. It just fell right to them.
And in this story, the daughter was an adult and she inherited the property. She got the order determining homestead done. The judge signed off on it. She's the owner. She puts it up for sale. She sells it for $300,000. Just throwing a number out there. That really wasn't the purchase price, but I like to use that number. Okay, $300,000. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
She comes to us. We're lucky enough to be the title company to ensure the transaction. We do our title search. What does our title search say?
Well, the title search is what you relied
Clean,
on.
beautiful. Yeah, it's
title passed.
he owned it for 30 years, more than 30 years. Judge signed off. She's the owner. What could go wrong, right?
Nothing.
Nothing could go wrong. That's perfect. It's beautiful. If you had an attorney review that, he'd give a stamp of approval on it, which means it's only as good as that stamp of approval. So everything looks great. We suggested that she inherited the property, that she might want to get a title policy. And her response was, why do I need a title policy? My father's owned it for more than 30 years. I'm the only heir. What could go wrong? I said, well, you're signing a warranty deed, which means you'll defend the title against all claims whatsoever, whomsoever. The 30 years helps because there's the Marketable Records Title Act, which I guess stops a person from claiming rights if their interests exceed 30 years. And there's a little bit of more nuances to that. So I said, I understand what you're saying, but it's always good to get a title policy. Nope, don't need one. Okay.
Don't need one.
Don't need one.
Don't need one. Don't want one.
I was all right, that's fine. She does the closing. She contractually pays for title insurance for the buyers, which normally happens.
Of course.
And everything's beautiful. 6 months later, I get a horrible phone call from my buyers, my insured. I shouldn't call them my buyers. The insured, our insured, telling me that they just got served papers. Now, the great thing is they had title insurance. So what we did at that point is that we took their title insurance policy, went online, we filed the claim with the title underwriter. Okay. When everything came out of what happened is, what nobody knew is that Dad, even though he's a 69-year-old man, had a girlfriend. And
Who was not 69.
Who was not 69. Who got pregnant and had his child. Nobody knew this.
Well, he didn't know.
He was dead, Rusty.
Well, she had the child after he died.
She had the child after he died.
No, before he died.
After he died. Yeah, I know that complicates your brain a little bit. but there's a test done. It's proved that it was his kid.
More than an abortionist when you need one.
Oh, boy. Can you throw a freaking computer at him?
Blake, can you edit that?
Well, okay, so this is life not a being.
Don't get into that weeds there, okay?
That's a heck of a weed.
I understand, but don't get into the weeds. The point is this. She proved that that was his child.
But the child was not alive when he died.
Oh, that's an argument that you have to make in some other state.
Why is
Because in
that?
the state of Florida, that's still a life.
I don't know that life can hold title.
I'm going to tell you this. It's still a life.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
that's the life. But
Or how about this? To help you with your brain, so your brain doesn't explode, how about we go ahead and change the facts and that the child was born and then
okay,
he
that's all I
died.
care. If the child was born, then fine.
That'll make you happy. That's not what happened. That'll make you happy, all right? For the example?
For the example.
Okay.
It won't help me sleep tonight. But
Okay. So in reviewing everything, what happens if, to make you happy so you don't have to get your head explode, the child was born and then he died.
You
Okay.
can't. It doesn't matter if he
Child
had a
was
will.
born and then
It
he
wouldn't
died.
matter
So
if he had a will.
what happens?
It goes to the child.
Goes to who? What child?
The new one.
The minor child.
The minor one.
Yeah. So the daughter, now she still has half interest, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she still has half interest. So the payout was $150,000 to the mother as guardian of the daughter. Okay. Title underwriter had to pay that money. Thank heavens our buyers were insured. What would happen, Rusty, to these poor buyers had they purchased this home from a friend? Oh, I knew your dad owned it for all these years. Oh, he's a great guy. Oh, I trust you. Let's save the title insurance premium. Can you imagine? I was literally at a closing one time, and this attorney, this was for a $900,000 closing. The attorney looks at me, and the attorney was the buyer, and said, by the way, looks at the seller, and says, let's just cancel the title insurance. We'll prepare the documents, and we'll split the difference on the title insurance fee. Freaking serious. On $900,000 cash transaction. So, thank heavens this buyer had title insurance. Okay.
Well, they're going to be made whole. That's fine.
They're made whole very simply by the underwriter paying off the mother, and then obviously having to get a guardianship done for the deed, right? All those things had to be done. That's all expensive. That's not cheap. You know?
Well, the guardianship for the deed, that's the other side.
I understand all that stuff.
That'd be the person who inherits, who got the property's problem.
The underwriter's going to make my insured whole.
Right. They're going to.
Everything's going to happen.
And they're going to pay them. They're going to pay them, and they're going to keep the property.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're keeping the property.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So will the title underwriter want to pay $300,000 or $150,000 plus some fees?
Okay.
It's all you weigh it out, you know. And so
well, wait a minute. Then they go after the person that inherited.
Well, okay, but the daughter, the adult daughter, what do you think she did with her $300,000?
Oh, it's spent.
Spent it on what? A new house.
Yeah. Well.
Okay.
Okay.
So now, the title underwriter, who pays out the claim, makes our insured whole, okay, takes care of the claimant, sues my seller.
As I would recommend they do, yeah. Because she signed a warranty deed.
She signed a warranty deed. She didn't know. How could somebody be liable for something they didn't know in the state of Florida, Rusty? How could you be liable?
Because that's the one thing you don't have notice of is some unknown person having an unknown child.
Yeah. But why is she liable for that?
Because she signed a warranty deed.
Yeah. Life's not fair in real estate.
Well, no.
Period.
It's not.
No.
That is, and it's a weird situation. Haven't heard of it happening much, but that's one of those things you can't see in a stinking title search.
You know, you say you haven't heard of it happening much. That particular case, maybe not. But have you heard about title claims happening?
Oh, yeah. Title claims happen.
Fraud is rampant right now.
But fraud's not going to protect you as the,
it's going to protect you as the buyer.
As the buyer, but it's not going to protect you as the seller. But well, you're not the seller though.
I'm telling you what. Anybody who buys property nowadays without title insurance does need a psychiatrist. I mean, it's just too much risk out there.
Oh, I agree.
Okay. We have a situation where we had a client that, get this, Rusty, bought a foreclosure. Okay. And fixed the house up, sold it, found out that there, for some reason, was a first mortgage that fraudulently got satisfied, something like that, and surfaced after the fact. And the guy that bought the foreclosure was like, I don't need title insurance. The judge signed the certificate of title, right?
No, the judge signed the judgment.
just go with me on this. So, and I'm not laughing. I'm sad because this is another one of my clients, and he sold the property. He fixed it up, put money in this. I mean, he's got a lot of money in this thing. Fixed it up, sold it, made money on it, but then there was a claim. The title underwriter verified that this satisfaction was fraudulent, and they had to pay that off. And what'd they do? They sued him.
Of course.
So I guess what I'm trying to get to, and we tell you these stories. These are stories,
and it's not because the title company's evil. It's because they're an insurance company and they want to recoup their money because they have a duty to their stockholders.
And all you have to do to absolve yourself of that risk is to get what?
You get a title policy. But you know what?
There's title insurance policy.
But I don't know that there's that many title agencies that I know of that are preaching this.
Because they're closing companies that write title insurance. They don't understand that. We are a title company that happens to do closings. Okay, that's the difference. And if you're a closing company that happens to write title, you don't understand the risk. And it's not a problem until it is. And some of these people are just I'm going to make up a word. I almost said disattached. Is that a real word?
Disattached sounds like you're attached.
Yeah, I know. I'm making up words as I go on here.
It's a word tonight.
How about they're just separated from
unattached.
Unattached. There you go. Unattached to reality.
Not attached.
And they don't understand. the risk involved.
But everybody wants to save a buck, okay?
Everyone wants to save a buck. I get it.
Making a deal, making money in real estate sometimes comes out to the little dollars and cents.
Yes.
Are you willing to assume that risk?
Well, I like the analogy that I've used before. Your real estate ownership. It's important that you wear your financial seatbelt, which is your owner's title insurance policy. You never want to need the sucker, okay? I don't ever want to need my seatbelt, okay? But it can be a lifesaver. And then, to make the analogy a little more fun, your title endorsements are your airbags, okay? It just
hit you in the face really hard?
Face really hard. It's just that little added more protection for you because, I don't care how safe you drive. That's not the analysis. It's all the other crazies you got to deal with out there. We could do the analysis of, well, the Marketable Workers Title Act says that in 30 years, if you don't state claim, you've lost your right to do so. Roughly.
But you could be sued and have to defend it to prove that.
That's right. We had a situation where the deed had been recorded for more like 50 years. And they still sued, but they needed a good attorney to say, under MARTA, go pound salt. When you get a title insurance policy, the freaking title company pays for that attorney to make that statement to prove that
and then
fact.
Because it's not personal, they figure out a way to make a deal usually.
They do. Sometimes
they don't go to trial that much, but
no, they don't.
Because it's usually more efficient.
Right.
To make a deal and then have the agent pay them back.
Nah, if there's not any wrong on the agent's behalf, they don't. I mean, the underwriters have been pretty good. If they want to argue that the agent had some type of misconduct, then they could have been more careful, then yes. But in the case where it's just something like the case of the lady that had the minor child, they didn't come after the title agent or me for any deficit. I mean, they just paid that, and because that's just part of it.
Because that's a real claim.
That's just real. You can't find that.
No, but it's very interesting because again, we don't. Everybody thinks that title insurance is an unneeded expense. Okay, there are people that think that.
Yeah.
But back in
my seatbelt, I don't need it either. You think it's until you need it, you just don't realize how important it is.
But they didn't install them by law before the 60s.
No.
And I
remember.
You don't remember? I remember.
Oh no, I remember.
Because I
remember sitting in between mom and dad
on a bench seat.
On a bench seat.
Okay, well they had a seatbelt for you. They had three seatbelts.
Oh, did it? Well, we never wore them.
Well, that's I understand that part.
Yeah, our seatbelts was Dad's arm going like this.
Yeah, I understand that too. But I remember distinctly in my memory that we had a Volkswagen Bug that my parents had to either, I don't know if they had to or if they just decided to, but I remember the installation of seatbelts.
That's crazy. What do you think about that? And then remember driver's ed?
Yes, they recognize death in Technicolor. That's what it was called.
It was rough, man. And they don't have that anymore, I don't think. No, but driver's ed, I mean, it was gruesome. Well, and as a shelter, I was pretty much a shelter kid for whatever reason. Growing up in a Christian home, I guess. I don't know. But that was my first exposure to some horrible videos and pictures, man. Then you leave there like this. Okay, I'll wear my seatbelt. We need to have movies like that for title insurance. Here's why you should have title insurance. Seriously. I mean,
well, again, you don't need it till you need it.
That's right.
Okay. So the idea is, think of the underwriter. He has a whole lot of closings where they get a premium that it's not that big of a premium. Okay.
No.
And the claims are not small typically.
Well, and I know you get to a point, but the interesting thing about owner's title insurance is when does it expire?
When you're dead.
When you're dead. The owner's title insurance policy you get when you purchase a home is in place even after you sell, which is very important.
Sometimes that's more important.
Unless you sign, a little side note, a quitclaim deed.
Well, but if you sign a quitclaim deed, you don't have any more liability.
Well, that's the problem.
Your liability's gone.
It's the problem for the... No. Well, yeah, it is. You just void all the...
Well, you don't need the coverage. You sign a quitclaim deed.
You do. That's right.
So
I'm void from any liability. Yeah.
So unless maybe you may have a fraud claim, but other than that,
yeah.
So you don't need it till you need it, and that's the bottom line. You don't need life insurance. You don't need to wear a seatbelt unless you're getting pulled over by a cop or you get an accident. Okay, so do you want to take the risk? You know, is it worth to save $1,000 on a $200,000? Was $1,050 on a $200 or $1,075 on a $200,000 purchase?
And
Really?
it's a one-time purchase. You're
It's a
spending
one-time
that on
fee.
auto insurance on a
Every 6 months.
annual-ish basis.
Yeah.
So so you just have to think about that. And you know, it's an interesting concept to say, you know, if you inherit something and you're going to sell it later,
Get title insurance.
yeah.
Yeah.
But then how are you
Because you
figure out how
inherit
much?
it, there's all kinds of crap that can happen. I mean, how many times have we seen a case where, and I think you represented these people, where she lived with mom and dad, and mom died, took care of dad. Dad was like, "Love you, daughter," signed a deed over to her. I know it's not an inheritance case, but she's like, "He gave me a deed." He dies. What do the other 3 children in the family say?
Where's my piece?
Where's my piece? She says, "Well, I own it."
And that deed was probably obtained by a fraudulent method
Yeah,
or
he
undue
was
influence.
incompetent. or
undue influence.
Yeah, and they refer back to the fact he was Baker acted like 6 months before.
Well, Baker Act's fine. That's 72 hours.
I understand, but that's the problem. She still had to pay to defend that,
Oh, big time. And believe me,
and she didn't have a lot of money.
I've been there. I've been on the other end.
How
of
much
this
would it
hard.
cost to defend that? Do you think?
Too
No,
much.
I'm not talking about you. You worked at a law firm. How much would it cost to defend that? Not the Rusty Collins fee, because
Okay,
you're more reasonable than any other attorney I've ever
Okay,
seen.
So I'm thinking you're probably between $5,000 and $10,000 for the upfront non-refundable retainer or fee. Okay, and then you're looking at $350 an hour once that's burned up, and then you got whatever costs. Well, you're going to have to do a bunch of discovery on dad's competence. You know what doctor stuff says,
Right.
and you can still lose at the end of the day because you're the caretaker.
Right.
That's going to give you a presumption of
Right.
undue influence.
Right.
And you have to rebut that.
And all she had to do was get a title policy on that for the market value at the time, and she'd be insured.
And what would be nice about that is you would have somebody that's a title person or at least a closing agent of some kind be able to observe father.
And be the notary. And
be the notary
DMV
and say,
as well.
I talked to him about stuff. He may have been a little bit loopy, but he knew what day it was, and he had a sense of humor, and he complained about Trump and whatever it is that people
Right.
do. I look at humor. If they got a sense of humor, they should be okay.
Right.
But there are
But how
things.
much better would she have been? Because she had to spend, Rusty, I think it was $15,000 in legal fees. And I think in
Did
the
she
end,
win?
I don't remember. I hope she did, but she may have not won. I mean, it's an awful thing. So always, when you have real estate, when you own real estate, you should have an owner's title policy. That's just my feeling.
If you're going to sell it, yeah,
Even if you're going to keep it.
true.
What is this if you're only going to sell it?
Well,
No, if you're going to keep it, you want it for that. And then if you sell it, yeah, you still, because the liabilities on the warranty deed, yeah. But even if you're going to keep it.
well, look, it's everybody wants to save a buck, okay? That's the bottom line.
Yep.
And while I talk to people about title insurance and what it means, I believe they have the right to make a choice.
Listen,
Okay.
I don't care what risk you take, as long as you know what the risks are.
Bingo.
Listen, watch these videos of people in accidents not wearing seatbelts. You don't want to wear a seatbelt? Knock yourself out. You know what? We all know riding a bike without a helmet, probably not a smart thing, but that's what you want to take the risk for.
What are you talking about? I never wore a helmet.
Exactly.
problem.
My
Exactly.
We had all kinds of that. We made jumps out of wood stuff. And
Listen, I'm
little
just
bikes.
saying, that's my point. If you know what the risks are, take them. Just know what the risks are.
Mhm.
And if you want to take this risk, so be it. You know what? That's a great thing about being an American. Okay?
You can assume the risk.
Do the analysis of the risk, take the risk. That's what opportunity is made out of, right?
Of course.
You know?
And again, when in any kind of situation, you can assume the risk and you make choices. Sometimes those choices cost you a premium. That's fine. I mean, you can be fairly healthy and not need health insurance until something happens.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not cheap anyway.
No.
But you assume that risk. And it's great as long as nothing bad happens.
Right.
All the money saved until it disappears, and then you're behind the
I like some of these real estate investors who, maybe buy something once in a great while. And then you have these real estate investors that are flipping and doing and signing contracts and taking title stuff and conveying it. And they try to be that middle person.
Well, if they do a quitclaim deed, they're fine.
But then you can't, because then buyers will not accept quitclaim deeds, because why?
Well, the middle person, if you're doing a flip, but
the in-person will always require an owner's title policy.
Of course, especially if they're getting financing.
So those middle guys who think they have no liability, I've only owned it for
10 seconds.
10 seconds. These guys are freaking on the Autobahn without a seatbelt. I mean, they're flying down at 120 miles an hour on the real estate freeway, taking all kinds of risks, just hoping nothing ever happens.
And it's not going to matter till it does.
It's not going to matter till it does. And the problem is, when it happens, it normally wipes them out.
It'll work. It'll mess their.
It'll wipe them out.
It'll mess up their profits for that time. All that money you made, all that risk you took, and then it's gone.
Pissed it away.
Mm-hmm. When that happens, I mean, look, everything's a choice, but it does make sense to make a good choice.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's important to understand the risks.
Yeah.
And again, they don't come up all the time, but you don't know when it's going to be your turn.
They come up enough.
Yeah.
For dang sure.
The fraud stuff. What on its face looks like a perfectly good transaction when it's happening can be problematic later, because we do so many things remotely.
Right.
I had something where we were doing a probate case, and we did, because you can sign probate stuff electronically.
DocuSign, yeah.
You don't need a notary.
I say DocuSign. What do you call it?
Well, I use DocuSign. Okay, and I also have another one that we use sometimes. But the point is, it's tied to an email address, right? How long does it take you to get a Gmail email address that kind of sounds like you but may not be you? Yeah.
5 seconds.
Okay, you can get it very fast if you're creative on that. And there's an accusation that some of the signatures were done that way.
Yeah.
So we live in a technological world.
And I love the technology, and I love the convenience. We just have to insure against it.
Right. So, but, you don't know. Title company may not know. I mean, now we have a lot of other protections where you have a third-party company that's indemnifying that's the person. But that helps a lot. Yeah. But, that wasn't always popular a few years ago. And there are things that may not have reared their ugly head.
No, there's things that's still going to surface.
Right. So
we're starting to catch some of those things now, where there were fraudulent transactions, and we're now starting to see them come.
That's the beauty of the real estate fraud. If you're the fraudster, you are gone.
You're gone.
If you do it at the beginning of the year or after the taxes have been paid for the year,
people don't find out for another 10 months.
They don't realize until they didn't get the tax bill, unless they keep looking at the property appraiser.
Yeah.
And the money, the person's gone. And we don't know who it is or who they were or what they were.
And that's nice that the county has that system you can register for.
Right.
All of the counties
Even maybe
are mandated
after the
by
fact,
statute.
but at least it's there. Because when we did the Ladybird deed and you filed it, I got notice within a day or so.
Right.
So it was nice.
Yeah, and that's important. I mean, that's a statutory requirement for counties now?
It's a statutory requirement. Everybody has to have a way to do that for free.
For free. And they just register online with the clerk's office?
Right. You put your...
Or is it with the property appraiser's office?
Here I thought it was the clerk.
It's the clerk.
You sure it's the clerk or the property appraisers?
I'm pretty sure it's the clerk, because they just came in.
Can you look that up real quick?
Yeah, I will. They just dropped off some new brochures.
Okay.
Again
Remember, the property appraiser doesn't get the recordings for a little bit.
Well, that's true.
And it takes them longer.
It does. Okay.
Okay. The clerk's office, they're using names.
Right.
Okay. So it's different.
Yeah, I think everybody should register for that. That'd be nice.
It's
at least you get noticed.
But
that doesn't fix the problem. You still have to.
It's always
have
after
to go to
the
court.
fact.
Right.
But
that's like OnStar. Hi, you've been in an accident. No crap, Sherlock. Really?
Have you?
Oh wow.
Well, but the idea is it gets the help there quicker.
It does. It lets you know. Timing is important. The quicker you resolve an issue, the better. One of the fraudulent cases we were involved in with a vacant lot was that, by virtue of it happening quickly, the people didn't spend, thousands of dollars on house plans and things like that. And that's important.
Well, yeah, that really messes you up when you got your dream house you get ready to build. Now you don't.
Or you start building, and then you find out. Yeah.
Well, you may have a claim for betterment, but
yeah, I mean
still.
that would be a fun one to talk about, Rusty. What would you do in that case? You got a fraudulent conveyance of a lot. Okay, people get a building permit and they start building a house with their 90% done, and then the claim's filed. Hey, that's my lot, and no, I'm not going to give it up.
Well, there's a remedy for that.
What is it?
It's called betterment.
Yeah. What does that mean?
And you can get basically, it's kind of sort of an unjust enrichment type claim. So I thought I was owning the property. Okay. I was not just taking it over because I'm wanting to be a pirate and take the property. Okay.
Right. It was totally by accident.
I have made it better.
Okay.
Okay. Is it just?
No.
Okay.
But how do you enforce that?
Well, we know what the lot, okay. We have a vacant lot. It's an investment, right?
$50,000 lot, $500,000 house.
Okay. Well, then.
Well, now what do we do? People that own
there's
the
a
lot.
lawsuit.
Okay. People that own the lot are like, okay, we're not willing to give up this lot. We want to live here. Not quite the house we wanted, but we were going to build one here eventually. We're not prepared. We financially cannot afford the mortgage, but in 10 years, I have a plan to afford that mortgage. What do you do in that case?
A judge is going to work that out.
Come on, Rusty. Put yourself out there.
It's a betterment lawsuit. Okay.
Put yourself out there. What do you think a judge would do?
I think the problem we have is we have two innocent parties, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
And one bad guy who got away with it.
Right. Well, the bad guy's gone.
Yeah.
We're not going to be able to torture him to death like we should.
Nope.
Okay. So there has to be an equitable resolution. Now, how they come up with the number, I don't know. Okay. Because if I put in the money to the house, then when I paid for the lot.
Do you think a judge could force the owner of the lot to sell the lot?
Yeah.
Force the owner. Say, you will sell this lot. No, this is my dream lot, Judge.
Well, okay,
I never wanted this. This is not my fault this happened. They built this $500,000 house. I'm willing to accept it. I can't afford it for 10 more years. No. Now he breaks out the computer. We're making him
That's a tough call.
I mean, we had the story in Palm Coast where the builder did the survey and built the house on the wrong lot. Okay. I mean, this is not a farcical story here.
True. But, and it can happen. I mean, you know, but, and the problem you have is real estate is unique.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't care if all the houses look alike. The property can only be in one place. And you can't duplicate that piece of property with another one. So because of that, it gets kind of nutty. Okay. It just gets nutty. I don't know what the remedy is in a betterment case.
We might bring that up on another show because it'd be an interesting topic.
Maybe the house could be moved.
Nope.
There's not many basements.
Can't move a house when you got a solid concrete foundation like they do now.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was like one of those old houses,
blocks,
where they put them on blocks. I mean, those old houses in St.
Yeah.
Augustine, they have those homes on blocks. They move those all the time.
I'm just thinking about basements.
Well, very interesting to show when you sit there and watch Rusty type on the computer.
Well, but you understand, when was the last time I've asked that question? I don't remember a law school or bar exam question that said,
it's something that what we'll do is we'll address it. I'll write it down. We'll make sure we address it because that's going to be an interesting topic. Okay, unfair enrichment. What did you call it? Betterment. What?
Betterment is a cause of action.
Okay, betterment is a cause of. We'll hit that on our next show. But Julie, what's going on in your world?
Oh, you just threw me a curveball. I'm not ready for that.
Come on, talk. You don't get to talk very much.
We are just getting ready for a new year of marketing and supporting our realtors in town with Lunch and Learn series and free gifts and just betterment and education. Okay. So just stay tuned for more information.
All right. Awesome. Well, this has been Land Title Talk. We appreciate you listening in. We will be back next week. So we'll look forward to talking to you at that point. Remember, you can always text us at 904-501-4481, 904-501-4481 for any questions or comments you'd like to have discussed on the show. Also, you can reach me, Stephen Collins at Land Title America at 904-797-9600, 904-797-9600. Would love to help you out with all your real estate transaction needs. whether it be refinancing, purchase, sales, any of those types of transactions. We'd love to be there, like to be there for you. If they want to find you, Rusty, how do they find you?
Why do they want to find? 904-829-6600.
904-829-6600. That's how you find Rusty. You would want to ask for his assistant, Ben. And we've greatly appreciated you listening. We'll be back next week. Thank you very much.